So I think we are now live and ready to go. This is really exciting. We're doing today a presentation and a conversation about a joint OpenSpending CKAN project that Open Knowledge has done with the President's Office in Mexico. Before we get rolling, I would suggest that we have a really quick round of introductions from everyone here. So if you have a microphone and you'll be able to say a few words, please do introduce yourself. I'm Anders Petersen. I'm community leader on the OpenSpending project. And who would like to go first?
I can go first, Anders. Thank you. I'm Rodolfo Wilhelmi. I'm Director of Open Data at the Office of the President in Mexico, and we're pretty excited of this new project.
Hi, I am Maria from the Office of the President of Mexico too, and I'm in charge of the outreach efforts at the office. And I'm really excited to be here to see how we can make a really good job and also letting people know about this launch.
Excellent, thanks.
I guess I can go, Anders. Hi, everyone. I'm Anya Calderon. I'm Director General of Digital Innovation at the Office of the President as well. Can everyone hear us? I see something.
I hear you well.
Okay, great. Well, we're very excited to launch this project today, and even more so in the next implementing this tool at different levels of government. So we're happy to get feedback from anyone who's interested.
Great, thanks so much, Anya. So in the thread, Prasanna has introduced himself. Samuel, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello?
Or Amparo? Yes?
Yes. Hi, how you doing, Anders? We haven't started yet, right?
We have started, actually. We're doing a few rounds of introductions right now.
Okay. Just give me 1 second, please, before I introduce myself. You want to say?
Okay.
If you want. This is OpenSpending CKAN integration. I'm going to learn. I don't know what it is about. All right. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm back.
No problem. Thanks for joining, Amparo.
Sure. So in case anybody doesn't know me, I am Amparo Vallevian. I work at the World Bank, and I lead the bank's group that gives support to developing countries on open data programs. And I'm also the manager of the Partnership for Open Data with OK and ODI, under which I think part of this work was partly financed.
Yes. Fantastic. And Anat or Samia or Charlie or Denise, do you want to introduce yourself? You can unmute yourself.
I can go while we wait. I am Tryggvi Björgvinsson. I am the technical lead for OpenSpending and the software engineer who one of the software engineers who worked on the project.
Fantastic. So I think we've done most introductions by now. What we'd really like to have as Anat. Seems to be muted.
Anat, you seem to be muted because we're watching your lips move, but we're not hearing you.
Okay. Well, we can hear you.
I can't hear Anat. Can you?
No. All right. So let's. So I suggest we move along in the agenda, and so what we'd like would simply be with this presentation to talk a little bit about why we've been working on this tool together, a little bit about the technical aspects of the project, and then talk about, really some of the opportunities that this will offer. And so before I give the word to Trygve and Rodolfo, I'll just briefly introduce some of the reasons why we at Open Knowledge find this to be a really important project. So over the past 6 to 9 months, Open Knowledge has been involved in work around making budget data more standardized and better and easier to work with. One of the things that we at Open Knowledge have learned over the past years when working with budget and fiscal data is that the lack of standardization when data is published can make it really difficult for users to actually use the data. So if you as a user, as a journalist or as a think tank, try to follow the budget process and try to follow fiscal issues, what really seems to be often the challenge from at least research we've done has been that if governments do not publish data in a standardized format, it's very difficult to work with. It's difficult to write news stories about it, and it's difficult to really understand how much is actually, for example, spent on healthcare. So that's why we got involved more in discussing with governments how can we get more standardized data published to the public so that the public can work better with data. And so we were really excited as we did this research project to develop a budget data specification. We were really excited to get in touch with the government of Mexico and specifically the president's office to talk more about how a standardized budget data could be published. Because ultimately what we really care about is seeing some of the research and some of the work we do being actually implemented with agencies so that it can be useful to the public. So that's a little bit about the background for the project. And I'd love to give the word to Trygve and Rodolfo to maybe talk a little bit more about what the project actually included and sort of what has become the outcome of this. And also, if you have questions throughout this videocast, you can ask them in the right bar. There's a group chat, and you can also just raise your hand or interrupt us, and we'd be happy to talk more about that, whatever questions you might have. But Trygve and Rodolfo, do you wanna give a bit more background to what the project included?
Sure. I'll go ahead. So the project included let's start from the beginning, which Anders was mentioning. We have a budget data package, which is a specification which was designed to be simple, flexible, and comparable for budget data. And budget data would include their revenue data, expenditure data, and which is both the proposed and the approved plan of the government, along with the executed budget, which means the actual expenditure and actual revenues. The project used this budget data package specification and was kind of technical in that it made it easy to publish from the data management tool or platform which the Mexican government uses, which is CKAN, made it easy for them to publish directly to OpenSpending, which is designed to analyze and visualize budget data.
Stevie, I don't know what changed, but now you have echo.
I think Rodolfo had unmuted.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and we implemented this in two CKAN extensions, which are easy to install. One is designed specifically to create these budget data packages, and that's completely irrelevant to OpenSpending. It conforms to this specification, this standardized specification. And then we have another extension which publishes a budget data package to OpenSpending. And this included then also improvements to OpenSpending so that OpenSpending could read budget data packages. The two CKAN extensions were created or designed so that they would minimize the configuration, so it should basically just be about installing them and then doing nothing, unless you want something more, like default countries or something. What the budget data package extension does is that it adds 4 fields to a resource page. So in CKAN, when you create a data set, you add resources to that data set. And on that resource page, we now ask for 4 more different fields to be included, and they should be optional for the users. One is the country. One is the currency, one is year, so the year the resource applies to, and one is publication status. These are all pretty generic and should be useful for non-budget data package resources as well. So this isn't completely tied to budgets and could provide more metadata for other packages. The only field there which might be kind of budget data related is the publication status. It's a drop-down list where you choose 4 statuses for the resource. One would be proposed, another is approved, then adjusted, and then you have executed. This models the budget data cycle as International Budget Partnerships has drawn it up, and we took that budget data cycle and budget publication cycle, and we tried to model that and make it as general as possible. When you then create a resource, and if you fill out all of these 4 fields, the CKAN or the extensions will then go through the file you're uploading, look to see if it's a CSV file, looks then to see if it follows or conforms to the budget data package specification, and if it does so, it creates a budget data package automatically and automatically uploads that to OpenSpending, and OpenSpending on the other end automatically models the data and creates a data set on OpenSpending which can then be visualized really easily with all of the existing budget data package, all of the existing OpenSpending visualization tools. We have worked on this with the 2015 budget of the Mexico government, and with real data, we have seen that this works, and the process we have set up is really easy to follow and and yes, publish the OpenSpending datasets. It took us from uploading the 2015 datasets to CKAN, and then waiting while it's being analyzed by OpenSpending. After it's been analyzed by OpenSpending, it took us around 10 to 15 minutes to create a understandable visualization of the budget, the 2015 budget for Mexico, on a demo site we created. So everything is. I'm particularly proud of how easily we made this. These two extensions. And yes, that was a rough overview of a really technical implementation.
Great, thanks so much, Tricky. This is really great. Rodolfo, do you want to take it away and explain a little bit about how this has looked from the side of Mexican government?
Sure. Well, as you can see, our goal was to make it effortless. We really want to prove that there are benefits of using standards. So by doing all this CKAN integration with OpenSpending, what we are aiming to make data more usable and to showcase to public servants that by following standards we can have a lot of benefits. As we can see, we can have integrated APIs. We can build visualizations. We can cross these data sets with other kind of data sets. So that's what we are looking for. And well, one of the challenges we had in the process was to match the budget data with the COFOG standard. But I guess we did a good job on that, and that's our challenge to when we get to the local government level. But we can see that there will be a lot of benefits by doing that. But yeah, that's the main challenge. How can we normalize budget data sets across different levels of government?
Sorry, I had muted myself. And so, if you think about what this, I mean, this has obviously been a pilot that takes like one specific data set. You mentioned visualizations. What kind of opportunities do you see, sort of long term, or with the scaled use of this application?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, one of the opportunities we're looking for is to understand spending at different government levels. So this will help us a lot, and especially for one of the projects. We have several projects, but one of the projects that it's kind of aligned to this concept is the disaster response funds, and by using this standard, we could get to that level, and also by building visualizations, citizens can understand in better ways how the money is spent, right? So we can see opportunities and challenges in that sense.
Yeah. And I think one thing I'd emphasize also, and just to follow up on you, Rodolfo, is to the extent that we're able to apply a standardized the budget standard or the budget specification, we really save a lot of time and effort on the visualization side, because typically today when governments have a challenge of like publish one wants to publish more useful data and like visualize data, then the data manipulation and the data visualization is really two parts of the process, and the visualization part can be quite elaborate, and it can also be quite costly and not reproducible. And what we really try to do with this application is to, in order for standardizing the budget publication process, we can really scale the use and visualization much more. Because if we create a visualization for one side, we can create it for multiple sides, for example.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's one of our goals, to have out-of-the-box features and visualization just by following standards, and make those kind of tools reusable.
Eduardo was asking in the chat, how do you distinguish in the demo what is spending at the national and subnational level? The budget data package has a geocode field, so we can distinguish on a national level and on a subnational level, and the Mexican government data set includes the geocode field, which we have in OpenSpending, but at the moment the demo, which was just about seeing roughly where the money is going, does not distinguish between those two geographical regions, or the national and the subnational level. But it would be really simple to add that.
I'm sorry, can you listen to me?
Yep.
I have a follow-up question. So, if you publish the national Mexican budget in this platform, and you use the geocode to find out what expenditure is being done in what geographical region of the country, that's one thing. An entirely different thing is if you are the governor of the state of Jalisco in Mexico, can you use the platform to publish the budget of Jalisco?
Yes, you can. You can either publish it as your own dataset on OpenSpending, if you would create your own dataset in CKAN, or if you have access to the budget dataset on CKAN and you upload it there, and include the geocode field, you would be adding that to the bigger dataset on OpenSpending. So you can approach that from two different directions.
Okay. Yes.
And Rodolfo, I wonder, would you want to follow up? I mean, we've had conversations before about the national, like the federal national level and the subnational level. There are some challenges within the standard around that. Would you want to elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, sure. We work at the federal level, so to get data at subnational level, we have to work some collaboration agreements and projects. So we're still in our early stages of this, but we already have around 5 or 7 local governments who are willing to join in our open data efforts. So yeah, we have this in the roadmap, and it will happen in the following months. So we are really eager to look at their budget data and see ways to fit them in this model.
I have a lot of other questions that I think I prefer to send in an email, but one of them I'd like to ask now. Do you have any documentation on this? Documentation that explains the user guide, that explains to users how to install the software, how to prepare the data for uploading into the software, and what are the features of the reporting and visualization of the software?
I think. No, go ahead, Tricky.
Oh, I was just going to say, we don't have consolidated documentation in one place. We have separated budget data package into its own, you could say, universe. So there's a lot of documentation around the budget data package. There's the specification itself. There are tutorials of how to do this. And then we have the software side, which would be for CKAN administrators. And we plan on putting that in more accessible places. For example, just today we announced extensions.ckan.org, where we'll put the extensions and documentation surrounding the extensions. So we don't have it in one place, but you can still read up on everything you want.
But if say that I'm one of the majors of the French-speaking association comes to me and says, okay, so we want to use this, and where do I lead? What do I tell them? Where do I point them to?
So
me.
So Amparo, we have as Stricter said, we have a few different places to go. We have the standard, the specification that lives on GitHub. We have a finalized budget data package manual that describes the standard itself, or the specification itself, and how to work with the specification. And then we have just finalized the report around the Mexico project that will allow us to produce some additional documentation on how to use the CKAN extension. So I would say first step would be to get in touch with us, and we would be glad to provide these different documents. I would tell you that we are very eager to get to a more complete guide, but these are different. It's important also to say that these are different steps towards getting to that point if you're a government or a CSO.
Anders, can you put that in a one-pager that said step 1 is this, and this is the document, and step 2 is this, one page, and provide the links so that we can use that?
Very glad to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions from the thread? I think there are a few other points.
Eduardo asked about whether the demo is capturing revenue and expenditure from states and/or municipalities. Rodolfo is probably better suited to answer that.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we are still working on getting the data at subnational level. For this demo, we just made it with the federal budget data. So yeah, in the following months, we will get to the subnational level. We have some local governments that already agreed to work with us. So yeah, we're really eager to see what we do with them. Okay, Eduardo is asking, if a country does not use COFO, how do you proceed? Well, we just did the mapping, so it was like yeah, what we did is like a mapping between the two standards. Actually, for Mexico, it wasn't that hard because they do have some functional and subfunctional classification that it's kind of similar to COFO. So what we did was find where each function fits, and so it's actually that mapping. It's also published. It's also public in GitHub. Trivik, would you mind sharing the link?
Yes. I can share the link. Just to say about CoFog, currently the version of the budget data package which is being used in this project requires CoFog. There was a meeting back in July about the budget data package, and there were some concerns people raised there about the requirement of CoFog. So that might get removed from the specification in a future version. But at the moment we require it, so if you have a functional classification, you would have to create a mapping between them, or just use CoFog. And I'm off to find the link.
Anders, we have Ara from the Treasury who wants to join the call.
It should be open, so you can send the Hangout. It's a public Hangout.
Would be great if she joins. She's the team leader of the unit that is working on this kind of budget data, so they can give us a great feedback.
Yeah. So I would also say to add to, I mean, we've now in this call we've touched on a few different things that are, I think, critical to implementation. I think one thing is to and on Aura, can we could you forward the link, Rodolfo? Is that okay? Or do I need to do something?
Okay.
Because I'll need an email if I'm going to forward it, because the link itself is open. So, but I would just simply say that on in terms of like securing and getting a more robust model in place, I think we've touched already on this call about a few things that are critical. It's critical, I think, to get more experiences in terms of like how do we assist governments who might not have used the COFAC classification? How do we maybe assist in creating better mapping support, or possibly does the specification need amendment to actually accommodate non-COFAC standards? I think that's an ongoing conversation. There's not a final decision on that. Amparo, I also really appreciate your feedback around that there needs to be a really clearly prescribed model for how can a government easily adopt a 3-step or a 5-step program to getting to publish in this way, and we'll make sure that that description is being made. But we would also really highlight that getting actual pilots completed, either in like deepening the work with Mexico government, also testing the specification on other countries. That's absolutely critical. I will just send the link to Aaron now.
Rodolfo, I have a question for you. I saw that somebody in the Ministry of Finance was about to join, but in the meantime, do you know if they are planning to put
Sorry, Amparo, I missed that.
We lost the sound.
Website for, I'm sorry, Rodolfo. I was asking if the Ministry of Finance or the Economy, I forget what the name in Mexico, is planning to put this in their official website where they present the budget.
We haven't talked about it, but well, the idea is that if users get to that.gov to the Open Data Portal, they'll see that the visualizations and the project. But yeah, we can do that. They collaborate a lot with us, so I don't think they will mind. They actually would like to showcase this project. But yeah, we haven't talked about it.
All right.
Eduardo was asking what other countries are you considering to test the specification? We can disclose that Iceland is going to use the specification for their 2015 budget. There are others who have shown interest in it, but the specification was to a large extent designed around the World Bank's boost efforts. So what we did there is we kind of just standardized the headers of the files which Boost is currently publishing. So there is no it wouldn't be difficult to extend any tests of the specification to Boost projects, and we actually used the data from Boost to test the specification in its initial phase. We used we've used a Bosnian budget which isn't from Boost, and we have also used Armenia, which was published via Boost. Yes.
That's great.
And I think
So that means that if the Boost team, and Eduardo, I think, is part of it, wanted, they could easily upload all the Boost data for all the Boost countries into this package and include it in the website for Boost.
It should be really easy for them to do, yes.
If you allow me to interject, my only concern, and that's the reason why I had asked about COFOG, is that there are a large number of countries that do not use COFOG, and there is no mapping. There are contexts where the authorities provide you the mapping and makes your work significant. That mapping is not available, then that is not straightforward. And also, an additional question that I have: can you break down the expenditure by the economic classification? If you're spending by goods and services, or you're spending on debt, etc. If you can provide some information on that. And the reason why I ask about that as well is because standards of the economic classification, but it's not, those standards are also not adopted worldwide. And I'm referring to GFS from the IMF.
Yes, World Bank was present at the...
Aura, hi.
Hello.
We listened to you, but we're in the middle of a conversation and we didn't want to interrupt. So are you not listening to the conversation? Now we can't hear you.
I think we'll get to Aura. I think, Tricky, if you can answer your question, then we'll get to Aura in a moment.
Just quickly to answer the question Eduardo had. World Bank was present at the meeting we had back in July, and this was actually, I think, raised by the World Bank, the concern about requiring COFOG and GFSM, which is why we are looking into that for the next version of the specification. There was a suggestion of not requiring COFOG, but requiring the mapping table or the conversion table. There might also be that we just drop the requirement altogether. What we do then, we lose the we lose the comparability, the required comparability, and we get a recommended comparability. but that might be worth it in order to increase adoption, because as we understand it, requiring COFOG and requiring GFSM is a problem for adoption of the specification.
I think one thing that's key to highlight when we talk about adoption and these requirements is that I mean, one of the reasons why they have been proposed as a requirement is that they help us generate visualizations. So because we have COFOG as a skeleton, it is much easier to provide automatic visualizations. And so if we talk about incentivizing adoptions for governments, at least one of the driving ideas of this project has been to say, if we can offer automatic and free visualizations if you upload within this specific standard, well, then that's an incentive to publish, right? I mean, that's at least one of the ideas that we've thought was interesting to experiment with. If we drop the requirements, then the visualization points will be the wins from visualization will be less obvious. So that's I think that's just important to clarify. Aura, you had a question. Please go ahead. You can write it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask it. Aura, you are muted at the moment.
Aria, we cannot hear you. At least I cannot. We can see you. We can see your lips moving, but we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I was just saying that before I was in the call as I could watch it, but I couldn't talk. So I heard all the conversation about the budget and the federalized budget, but I was not able to talk. So because it was a concern raised in our previous call from the Ministry of Finance, I just wanted to make a point of the fact that I don't remember who brought this point up about the georeferencing. For us, it's not really about the geolocalization of the project. It's more about how the Mexican budget puts the money from the Ministry of Finance, then goes through the state and local level. That's what makes a complication for us to adopt COFOG in a broader sense. So I know we were in the conversation about standards, but as I raised in the call we had before, COFOG and other standards that I'm aware of were not made to be citizen-friendly or even to be comparable in a detailed sense. That's why they're standards. In this case, level 1 of COFOG was fairly useful for us and fairly easy to map. But I don't see this being easy to translate to the local and state levels. Well, we have another standard that the Mexican government has pushed. That's the how can I translate this? Accountant harmonization standard. And that standard, it's already in place in Mexico, and it was a huge effort from the federal government to have all the states and municipalities to adopt it. And it's still on its ways of being fully adopted. I do see a complication of asking the same people to adopt another standard. So like that was my concern last time. That's still my concern, that I think in order to move forward efficiently, we need to build pilots that we fully understand, coming from the point of fully understanding of the Mexican budgetary process, rather to try to force a standard that was not built to be translated to citizen-friendly tools. So that was my take last time, and that's still my take a little bit on this. To answer another question that was asked, we haven't talked about introducing OpenSpending into the Ministry of Finance budgetary transparency portal, but we were actually discussing it with other people in the Ministry of Finance, and we do find OpenSpending tool very helpful for the state level to incorporate to their own websites. I think they have a lot of problem finding funding resources for their visualization efforts. So OpenSpending would be a great tool for them. That's why we think it's especially important to find common ground on this Mexico specificity versus big standards that we are trying to introduce. And as we talked last time, I think it's important to identify the core that's translatable to most of the federal budget, and then work our way through to the state level budget. I don't think it should be an all-encompassing effort from the beginning, because it's just gonna be too forced, too quick, and then there's gonna be a lashback.
Yeah.
I have two questions, one for Aura and one for the software development team. So for Aura is, you said that you find that OpenSpending is a useful tool for the state governments more than the federal. But before you said that you have a standard that you use in Mexico, accounting harmonization standard, and you don't use COFOG at the state level. So how, if this software package is based on COFOG, how do you see the states using it?
What I think is it's easier for us, like the federal budget, the mapping that we did between COFOG and the things that we have in the budget was. In the federal budget, we are already using the harmonized accounting standard. So there is certain parts of money that can be traced that way. But when you come down to the project level in states, that's when it's gonna become more difficult. And that's I see it as two-phase. So first phase, we will try to incorporate COFOG and map it really to the things we have in Mexico as a core kind of tool, which is already mapping a lot of money, I would say. For a second phase, we'll need to sit down and really think about how useful COFOG is as a standard, and maybe develop a not core part of the standard that would be optional maybe for different states to use. Like, this is what we propose. And I think from the Office of the Presidency, they had a group of pilot cities and states that were interested in building these focal groups to discuss how useful kind of COFOG standard be for them, how does it match or really doesn't to the contable accounting harmonization standard. So I think phase 2 to the local level should be a bit more of a shared conversation with the stakeholders over there. And we see that they will find it more useful than anyone, because they have the most trouble finding visualization tools and fonts, and they don't really understand how useful can it be until you show them. So I feel that's the biggest opportunity area for us to use this visualization tool for federalized budgets. But then again, it's the phase. I feel it should be a little bit more of a phased process than what we are talking as we are talking about it right now.
So
yeah.
I can chip in here, because just to clarify, the budget data packet specification supports the local classification system, both for the local economical classification system, and the local functional classification system. And we include both of them in the Mexican budget data package. And I'm thinking the functional classification there. We have the Mexican functional classification system in OpenSpending, and we have COFOG as well, because we created the mapping for COFOG out of the local functional classification. The the thing to note here is that we already have a lot of tools which work for COFOG. We don't have a lot of tools which work on the local classification systems of each country. It's really, it can be really simple to do, but you would need some development within the country if you want to be able to use the economical classification system, the local functional classification system. But it's still doable, and the OpenSpending analysis platform supports both of those. But if you want something out of the box, COFOG would be the way to go, and that would be then the cheapest thing for governments. You would just need to create the mapping, and then ta-da, you have a budget which people can understand.
I'm not sure it will be the cheapest, because it will involve some training. And also, I don't know if you noticed when you were analyzing economical and functional classification, then it can differ from year to year, some of the budgetary classifications that you find in each one. So if you analyze 2014 federal budget versus the proposal for the 2015 federal budget, you'll find at least 2 discrepancies that we found when we were mapping this out. So as I understand, like, we did the mapping, and I don't know if you did it. Like, I don't know if we did 2 separate mappings, so we were supporting each other. I'm not sure about that. We'll talk. And then it will involve a lot of training from our part, which has already been done for these other classifications that you're mentioning. And it's fair to say that in some municipalities, for example, if we plan to extend this as much as it can, they don't even have the technical capacities to be trained on this COFOG. I'm talking of things as simple as a computer or internet. So, like, we struggle with this lack of resources in many municipalities, and even in many state levels, they are not, the human resources are not trained. So it's different layers of training. It's not just COFOG training. So about how, like, the cost of opportunity of using COFOG, I still find it a little bit steep.
Yeah, I understand, and from my perspective, I would still think that having software developers create something based on a local classification system would be more expensive.
I was thinking also, like, maybe I don't know if there's a possibility that there'll be a software or something within OpenSpending platform that the user can go through, and the mapping would be done centrally. So there will be just one mapper that maps all for the federal budget of this year, or like whatever year being, and then the user puts it in the terms that in the classification that he or she knows. Then it goes through this platform and it comes out with the COFOG classification, maybe.
That's a good idea.
I don't know if that's possible, but I was thinking it as we were speaking, and I think that'll be like something that it would suit everyone. And as we said, mapping it from the central level is not as hard. We'll still, if this is something that you're interested in, like, as it's coming right now, from the Ministry of Finance, we'll still like to sit with some of the pilot cities and states that the presidency has been talking to, just to, like, maybe talk about the details of this kind of how they work. They have many states have systems to work their budgets where they already have incorporated this information, many don't. So it's very heterogeneous. So piloting would be the best. We still learn a lot from sitting with them to understand. And I don't know, I think it's a good idea that even if we cannot find common ground in standardizing and teaching them all, we can find a platform that translates it.
Mm. Yeah, and I think, I mean, just one thing to add on that, I know that there are also developments in the community of finding ways to work on sort of more automated processes for doing mapping. So, for example, if you know the IADI community that works on aid data, they are now starting to develop, Publish What You Fund are now starting, they've developed like a beta, or they're in the process of developing a tool where you can essentially point and click mapping to specific budget codes. And so that would, that would take for a civil servant, that would make it even easier than sitting with an entire and very long spreadsheet.
Yes.
I think what's really useful also to think about, and I think it would be good possibly to wrap the call fairly soon, was to think about like, how can we take this forward in terms of actions? Like, do we need to create another pilot that possibly maybe examines both open spending without the requirement and with the requirement to sort of compare? Do we need more visualization tools? Is that what we need in order to drive adoption? I think it's key to, like, if we go a little bit back to basics, it's important to say that this was a pilot. It was developed like incredibly lean, with like generous time from Mexico government, from Partnership for Open Data. So it was really like, it was quite a bootstrap project. So I think it would really be important to think about like how can we take some concrete steps forward. And Amparo, I think it would be great if you would also like keep that conversation going with the POP team, because I think it's critical to sort of consider how we keep momentum on this.
Okay, so here's my thinking, okay, and like I said a moment ago, I have a lot of other questions that I will put in an email to everybody. But to answer your specific question, Anders, about how do we move it forward and how do we incentivize more users to use it and to eventually perhaps create a community of practice out of this and keep evolving. My thinking is this: there is going to be a lot of questions very similar to these discussions surrounding the different budget classifications that are used in different countries. I think that the software has to be adaptable so that it can be used by any country, okay? And I like to solve problems starting with the easy part and getting more complex as we go along. So I would advise the team for the time being to forget about subnational, to forget about sector level for the time being, okay? And think about national budgets only. So the budget at the national budget level, what are the classification problems? Okay, if the Mexico government has its own classification and it needed to do a mapping to COFOG to use the software, is this something that is done outside the software or inside the software, right? And what would be the process in other countries to do the same thing? So what I'm leaning into, without being an IT specialist myself, I have dealt with IT specialists for many years, and there is a terminology that I don't recall exactly. I think it's something like parametric programming, where you can have a software package, and before you install it, you define the parameters of your software program, okay? So let me give you an example in a completely different field. Many years ago, I was the head of customs of my country, right? And I installed a software package that is used by many countries around the world for customs operations. In the case of that software package, which is very well known and very sophisticated, when you install it, like, you teach the program what is your country's tax structure. So in this country, we have a VAT, we don't have a VAT. We have custom tariffs, we have just single, different, what is our customs classification of goods and services, what are the different other taxes that are collected by. So you teach all these things before you install the program, right? So there is a way in building software to do this. So that I'm imagining something similar for this package, where you give every user, again, maybe Tigby and Rodolfo are going to correct me, I don't remember exact terminology. I think it's parametric, you know, installation of the. So if I'm a budget authority in, I don't know, Estonia, and I want to use the program, then I would be able to convert my own budgetary classification to the needs of the project in the software itself.
I think it's a really good point, Amparo. I mean, and I think we want to make it absolutely clear to governments, like, these are the steps, this is what's needed, everything. Yeah, Rodolfo, I mean, thanks very much for highlighting that. This entire conversation is recorded, by the way. And we'll try to write up a few notes on this. We also have some notes already that relates to some of these points. So I've definitely taken note that we need to send some information across after this call, and I'll make sure to do that. Amparo, I mean, I'm not sure I have the full breadth to respond to your latest question. I think what you really touch upon is like that user friendliness and customization, that needs to be absolute concerns around the OpenSpending technology, and I think that's some very, very useful points that we'll take forward. I'd also encourage you to write the full email with questions to us, and we'd be happy to have a look at that and get back to you on point on point. I wanted to. I mean, we've now reached the hour on this call, so I'd love to hear if anyone have some last questions that we need to address. I think it's been a really productive conversation, and it's been really great to hear all this various input. That's certainly giving us a lot of vitamins to carry on, and feedback that can go into the project. Any other words on this? I can certainly copy the chat, Amparo.
Thank you.
Rodolfo, do you have anything?
Oh, well, just to thank you for this conversation. It was really productive, and we're looking forward to continue this implementation.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Same here. Thank you to everybody. I'm logging off now. Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Rodolfo and team in Mexico City.
Bye. Thank you, Anders.
Thank you.